Stay tuned because today we are going to print a manta ray fully articulated. So let's see how I sliced it. Welcome guys to another video. Today we are going to talk about this drop from STLFlix, the Fisherman drop. There are some articulated models. The articulation is pretty similar between all of them, so we are going to use this as an example. You can check this model and also the entire drop in the link on the description, okay? Guys, in here we have two main points to talk about to be successful on this print. First, the first layer. It's really important here that we guarantee that every single piece of this is attached to the bed or your build plate. Okay, so the first amount of settings that we are going to talk about are all of them about the first layer. After this, we are going to talk a little bit about the travel settings, okay? Because the movements that the nozzle is going to make in this print is going to define our success as well, because we can ruin the entire print just if we hit some of those pieces, okay, some of those parts, and we don't want this, okay? So let's first talk about the first layer. I am going to do some recommendations about my settings, but before that I want to enforce to you that you may check your bed level and also your structure on your 3D printer. If you have an older model like an Ender 3 or other older printers, you may check if all the alignment is well, if your pulleys are adjusted in the frames. We don't want any movement going loose by the frame, or for example your bed, you need to check your pulleys under the build plate as well, okay? So the entire mechanical system is going to matter even more on this case, because if you have any issue on the movements, on the alignment of the movements, the first layer may have problem. And also, if even if you have a good first layer, but after this we have some trouble in any pulley, we are going to have some problems in the travel movements, okay? So check your printer if you are having trouble printing this, okay? So let's consider your printer is already verified, and now let's talk about only the software settings, okay? So guys, for this model specifically and other models as well of this drop, I would consider to print with a 0.16 layer height to be to have more details, and also because let's just slice and show you what I'm talking about. For example, as you can see in the top layers, if you use 0.2, we are going to have more layer lines like this. So 0.16 is a good average. If you want to increase the details, 0.12 as layer height. So you have to consider the print time and also the details that you want. So for me, 0.60 is going to worth it, okay? Other things that I need to talk about to you. In here, we are going to set this, but in the advanced settings, we have the first layer extrusion width. So guys, I used to go with 0.48 as my first layer value for the extrusion width, because I always prefer to have more material in the first layer. I want to be safer in here. I always like to have a good attachment between the piece and the build plate. So if you guys want this as well, I recommend to use the same value as I'm going to use in here. And if you noted, I don't change my first layer height because I only need more details in the rest of the print. But my first layer is only to guarantee the attachment between the print and the build plate. So if I tested and my Z offset, if you are going to use automatic bed level, so if my Z offset is okay, if my layer height for 0.2 it's okay also, and my first layer settings for the extrusion width is okay, if I have tested other prints and went well. Now, if I want to change my layer height, I will not change my first layer settings. Okay, so I recommend you to keep this as a standard, and that's what I do. So I recommend you guys to do the same. Okay. Other thing that I always recommended is my speed in the first layer. I used to go really slow in the first layer. We are going to expend some more time in here, but that is going to make a print really more successful. The chances that going something wrong in here are extremely reduced if you use a small speed or a reduced value of your first layer speed. So I recommend you something about 20 millimeters per second, as I am going to use in here. This is my standard profile, so you guys are seeing something that I do for every print, and I always prefer expend more time in the first layer than some time extra doing 3 or 4 times the same print and losing every job that I am going to put on my printer. Okay, so I recommend you guys to use something like this. Those are my recommendations for the first layer. This is a tricky model in this aspect. So now let's talk about the travel movements. Okay, this guy is is equally important in here. So let's talk about consider. I don't know if if you have, for example, a bamboo printer or something similar. I usually don't use Z offset or the Z-hope options on those printers because I trust in the leveling. But if you are using another model, a older model, maybe you should use the ramping lift. You have the Z-hop in Bamboo Studio or other slicers, as Orca Slicer, for example, is the same setting. The only change, we are not going to use the ramping option. Okay, in here, I recommend you to use, because in the second that the nozzle stop making the layer, it starts to moving in a ramping pattern. So let's enable this option in here, and my maximum ramping lift value will be something like 0.2, 0.2 or 0.24, okay, millimeters in here. And the ramping slope angle that I recommended is 20 degrees or 30 degrees, something between those values. I am going to 20 degrees. And let's put my manta ray in here again. And now let's reslice it. And guys, the last explanation, I always prefer to do a little lift before the movement because I don't like to use brim on this type of articulation. Because if you use, I'm going to show you, but I don't recommend it, okay? Let's put in here like 5 millimeters as brim width. Let's slice it. Will be a nightmare to remove all those brims from inside of the model. Okay, so I don't recommend you guys to use this. I always prefer to make a safer movement during the print with a lift. Okay, so I don't recommend you to use brim in here because of this articulation. Is really tricky to remove after it's done. So guys, this was the how I sliced it for today. This drop has a extremely similar articulation for every model, so I hope you got your first layer settings right, and also on your leveling, checking on your printer, and also your travel movements as well. Any doubts that you have, leave on the comments, and see you in the next one. I hope you guys enjoy it. Those slicing videos are an initiative from STL Academy, which is the educational project from STLflix. So if you guys want to learn more about 3D printing, you could check our description and look at STL Academy courses. And don't forget, see you guys at the next slicing.